All right. Welcome to Two Bees in a Pod. On the show today, we have Akaash Pardesi. He is a guru in many aspects. He's a mind, body, and soul coach. He does it all, folks. He is the reason why we brought him on. He's got a wealth of knowledge. But the big thing is we're going to talk about testosterone. We're going to talk about peptides and what it does to your body. And for you guys that I'm just looking now, this dude with his shirt off, he's one of those guys that everyone hates. He's got like a 14 pack, the whole bit. But he practices what he preaches, and he's got some crazy stories, like the one where he put on, what was it, 30 pounds almost in a month?
20 pounds of muscle.
20 pounds in a month. And he was already pretty lean to begin with. So we're excited to have Akaash on the cast, and we're ready to learn about peptides, diets, testosterone, everything. So thanks for coming on. And if you could just start off about like what's your background.
Man, so, I started in bodybuilding, right? So, getting out of high school, I tried college for a little bit, didn't really work out for me. I was always smart, but just the whole school thing wasn't going, it wasn't working out. And I had Indian parents too, so they're like doctor, lawyer, engineer, got to make something happen. I'm like, nah, it's just not working out for me. But I was always lifting all throughout high school. Long story short, got bullied growing up. Wanted to, was watching Dragon Ball Z as a kid. I'm like, one day, I got bullied in the locker room at school. It was like 7th, 8th grade. And I'm like, you know what? From that moment on, I just started working out, training my body, joined the football team. Long story short, ended up playing football, going to the gym after football practice, do my bodybuilding workouts, probably like 6 hours of weight training a day. It was ridiculous. I was obsessed. Even had an elective in school weight training class. Also, in addition, I'd make sure I trained my shoulders on that day, just make sure, one of those like cap delts. So I was just obsessed with aesthetics. And that ended up being my main skill set after high school. So when I dropped out of college, I was like, got to make something happen here. So I started training. I was hustling the restaurant business. I was working at Cheesecake Factory, Seasons 52, training clients on the side. And eventually the coaching took over and I was able to quit my job. So I was like, that's cool. Simultaneously, I was competing. I just organically fell into that path. That's where the whole coaching started, And now I do the whole like mind, body, spirit, helping men get stronger, doing everything holistically. It's evolved to that. But it started off with just strict fitness coaching, health and fitness coaching, just helping people transform their bodies. So I've been doing that for over a decade now, and that's still a staple in my programs today. Health is wealth. I'm a big believer in that. All the intangibles of success that I preach and talk about, all those principles, they are all birthed from the fitness journey. I believe that truly. Like everything you need to be successful in life, you can learn in the gym, training like an athlete. You can figure it all out. Like everything, the grit, the discipline, the resilience, the consistency. Because man, I tell you, probably 3-4 days out of the week, some weeks 5 days out the week, you just don't want to work out, you don't want to diet, you don't want to eat the right foods.
6 or 7 days.
Yeah. seven out of 7 for me. 8 days a week, I don't want to eat the right foods.
Right. So you have some interesting conversations with yourself when you're staying disciplined in that manner. And I truly believe if you control what you put in your mouth, you can control your reality. And I know those two things when people might be listening for the first time. If you're in the health and fitness industry or on that path, you know what I'm talking about. But truly, like if you can control your food intake and control your hunger response, you can control anything in your life. So that's how I got started in short. And yeah, now it's a successful coaching and consulting company today.
I do wonder, you're talking about, joining the football team and working out in the weight room. I remember we used to do that too. In fact, for summers, we would, get into the weight and, gym and lift. And I'll be honest, we were probably doing everything wrong. You know what I mean? Like there was probably a lot of really bad techniques that we were learning because it was just a matter of just move that weight. You know what I mean? I don't
totally
care. Deadlift that 300 pounds over there. Yeah, don't worry about bending in the right spot. Just go ahead and pick it up. And so I do wonder about that. Like, were you given sort of a free rein, or did you have anyone who was kind of like saying, hey, make sure you're doing this right, make sure you're doing that? Was there anyone who was kind of overseeing anything?
That's a really good question. Now, looking back in hindsight, the technique and the form, it was very much what you said in the football dynamic. It was just move that weight. There was some coaching on the form, but not too much. So for me, you know, I was always a student. Like I said, I was always like very intelligent. Just college was not the right vehicle for me. So I applied that intelligence into learning like kinesiology and like sports science, stuff like that. Just a lot of Googling and a lot of YouTubing. So on YouTube, I would basically go and search up proper form, proper techniques. I would find different channels of other professionals that would demonstrate the right form, and then I would just apply that. So that's how I ended up actually learning. But no, in football, I didn't like have an exact like a mentor, like an in-person mentor. And you know, I wish they focused on that more. I mean, 'cause I do remember just watching kids just have their backs totally just rounded. You know, deadlifting's not good.
Definitely. I was doing the same. And I think really all it came down to, whoever the seniors were basically saying, hey, do it like this. And we're like, hey, they know what they're talking about. They're seniors, when they didn't know what they were talking about because they were learning from coaches that didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But, you know, for us, it was all about bigger, faster, stronger. How much can you max, doing all these kind of things. And I found that we got injured a lot lifting, whereas, you know, a lot of now people are saying go for lower weights, maybe do some resistance training. I noticed you were doing some resistance training in some videos that I saw. Is that something that you recommend to people more so, as far as like if you're trying to get in shape, you don't need to worry about deadlifting 500 pounds. You could just take some bands and start, you know, doing it at your house kind of thing.
You know, totally. I don't think like deadlifting and squatting and bench pressing is necessary. I do think doing those with a moderate weight, something you can do 7 to 10 times with proper form, is beneficial. Do I think it's necessary? No, but those movements are really good at building strength and building a good base foundation. So I wouldn't say they're you know, useless at all. They're very useful. When it comes down to weight training, I am a big believer in using actual iron in conjunction with bands and resistance and doing things like that. I think hitting it from all different angles is the best way to produce the most well-rounded physique and just the look of the muscle. Because I have actually tried this, just doing only band training for a couple months, and I noticed that just my muscles weren't just as dense as when I was lifting real weight. However, when you're lifting real weight, it can take a toll on your joints if you're on a lower rep range. But I find if you're on a higher rep range, by low, I mean like 5 reps and under, if you're at about 8 to 12 reps per set, you know, even upwards of 20 on like, you know, let's say you're doing a tricep extension, if you're banging out 20 controlled reps, that weight right there is not a huge strain on the joints. But when you get down 6 and under, I do find that, you know, it does stress your joints. And genetics also plays a big role in this. Like, I have smaller joints, so if you have like big, thicker joints, you see a lot of these powerlifters moving serious weight, you know, doing sets of 2 and 3, right? Like, if you look at their body type, they're genetically wired to do that. So that also plays a role. Just circling back to football, I think you asked a question about like injuries or something like that happened. Yeah, my wrist for the longest time, until I took some peptides for this actually, which we'll talk about later.
Great segue.
Yeah, great segue. Foreshadowing.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I know, right? When we're doing power cleans, man, I just really would like hyper extend or
Terrible
flex
on your wrist.
my wrist, man. So my wrist would like always be popping later on, even into my training career. So just from doing a lot of power cleans, just, you know, I think and I have smaller joints, which is great for aesthetics, not good for lifting super heavy weight. So, you know what I mean? Not built to be a power lifter, which is totally cool. Not, you know, it's not my jam, but yeah.
And then about diet, right? Because we talk about lifting weights, we talk about going to the gym, you know, 4 or 5, 0 times over here to the right a week. But I've noticed, I mean, I've been in the fitness industry for years and supplement manufacturing, supplement stores. So I've been surrounded by a lot of bodybuilders, and they all say the same thing. They say diet. I mean, I've heard most of the guys say diet is 80 to 90%. What is your take on how important is diet to achieving physique at your level?
It's extremely important. I'd say it's 100% diet and 100% training. Because if you diet,
that's 200%. How's that?
I know, right? They're both. It's like they're both equally important. But it's interesting. You can slack on your training, but if your diet's on point, you can still look decent. You know. So, and I think if you slack on your diet and you're on point with your training, you can still look sloppy. You know. So that's the. But I just really think they need to be valued equally, just because they're both so important. Getting your protein in, muscles are made out of proteins. You got to eat your proteins. Like literally, your body needs the amino acids to like build the new. You need protein. They're building blocks of muscle.
And so you have an interesting take on. We've known each other for a few years now, and you're not a big veggie fan. You hate veggies, actually.
Fuck vegetables.
He has.
Well, it's not that I
Akash has a
hate 'em.
serious hate for veggies. He doesn't think they
I'll
serve
enjoy
any
a Caesar
purpose.
salad at a steakhouse. You know what I mean? You have a little appetizer and stuff for like the sake of just the eating experience. But like, I don't like actively like go out of my way to eat veggies. If they're around, I'll eat them. And that's the reason is I learned the science behind it. And it's interesting. A lot of new science is coming out on this. So veggies actually have defense chemicals built into them that cause inflammation of the gut. Now, I'm not saying they inflame everyone's gut, but I'm saying they do have oxalates and lectins, which are basically defense chemicals. Long story short, vegetables can't run away from you. So over time, they have developed a way to defend themselves from herbivores by, creating these essentially they're toxins that inflame your gut, so that when you would eat them or animals would eat them, they would have their guts would be inflamed. Now this was something that happened over evolution, and totally like animals have adapted on their end too to be able to process them and whatnot. But the essence of these oxalates and lectins are that they do cause inflammation. So on one hand, there's the argument of like, oh, you can get a lot of fiber from that and vegetables. I'm like, you can get fiber from other sources as well. And I'm not saying they're bad, because there's there's vegans out there that are super healthy, eating vegetables and stuff. I think everyone's different. But when I found that science on it and actually cut out vegetables, and you'll also find too, if you do your research, there's a lot of people that have like fixed a lot of their gut diseases and autoimmune diseases from cutting out vegetables. Jordan Peterson comes to mind. When as soon as he cut out veggies and he was doing an elimination diet for his autoimmune disease, he went full carnivore and just doing meat and veggies. And he said he felt the best and the most clear-minded when he just cut the veggies out and just did only meat too. A lot of people experience that. So, I wanted to try it, and I feel good eating minimal veggies. I really do. It doesn't hurt my digestion at all. So I don't necessarily like, oh, I need to eat a serving of broccoli right now.
Well, I heard that from a friend of mine. He's a bodybuilder, and this was in our 20s, and we're getting ready for a Vegas pool party, right? So we're like, all right, what do I eat the night before? Like, that's a big deal. You're doing like push-ups in the bathroom, like the whole bit when you're in your 20s. And he said, I'm like, I'll just have a salad tonight. And he's like, no, like, do not have a salad before, it'll bloat you. And I'm like, how can a salad bloat you? And another guy that I know was right next to me was like, yeah, dude, no salad before a pool party. And I don't understand. I still don't get it. But now you saying that, it makes some sense. There's no defense mechanism in a salad.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are right. There are defense, and they're inflammatories, right? Yeah, that's the salad's defense against being eaten. Broccoli can't run away from you. Spinach can't run away from you. And I love avocados too. It's sad because avocados, are high and they can't run away. They are tasty and stuff. So just be aware. That's really cool. I think, and there's a lot of new science coming. It's not necessarily new science, but it's just more mainstream now.
So you just eat meat just straight up.
Yeah, but 90% of my diet is just like steaks and
Do you have like sauce or anything, or is it just straight?
Sometimes a little bit, some certain hot sauces and stuff that I use the hot sauces that don't have seed oils. That's another big thing that's causes gut inflammation. See, I'm big on just gut health. And it's predominantly for mental clarity is the reason I do it. Less about all the health benefits, and there's a myriad of health benefits, of course. But yeah, seed oils is basically industrial sludge. And it's in almost everything, vegetables, canola oils, all these oils. They cause massive gut inflammation. And I think a lot of the time as people, we have adapted to the feeling of operating at a subpar capacity. So I believe that's really what's happened with a lot of people in the standard American diet. And even if you kind of watch what you eat and you still try to make, good decisions, people haven't been able to experience themselves functioning in a truly clear, cognizant, unimpaired, high performance state. And I think because they have no benchmark or reference point for that, I think that's the reason why most people are like, oh, I feel fine eating this, or it's not that bad. It's just like, I don't think most people have experienced what moving at 100% would really feel like.
It's true. It's funny you get into the salad argument. That makes a lot of sense to me with as far as lettuce. That's a lot of water. There's a lot of water in a lot of the vegetables. But I am wondering. You're saying that there are vegetables that are basically just kind of like just giant pussies. Basically, they're just like, come on over and eat me, do whatever. I'm gonna mildly irritate your stomach later, but like don't do this. Like, yeah, that's not really scaring me off, bro. But I am wondering, did you find that any vegetables were worse? Like, are the worst as far as I don't know. Were you saying there was a specific protein that they give off or something like that?
Defense chemicals, so lectins and oxalates, right? So, that's actually a really good question. And then I think, in my experience, I didn't personally, because it's different per person, right? It's kind of like with dairy, right? Certain people can process dairy really easily. Some people are lactose intolerant, and then all ranges in between. So I was just in a conversation with a guy in the sauna the other day at the gym, and then he does really well on broccoli. Broccoli's really high in lectins and oxalates. For me, I don't really care for it. I do okay digesting it, like if it's around, if I'm at grandma's house and she made it, I don't want to be rude and things like that, you know what I mean? But I just, in my life, I just try not to go out of my way to eat it. But, there's definitely higher concentrations per, spinach is one of the highest. So it's something to look into. You can easily Google and then like find charts and whatnot. But I mean, they're all kind of around the same ballpark. But yes, certain vegetables are higher in concentration of these lectins and oxalates. Yeah.
So I am wondering though, we're talking about basically, straight up vegetables. I'm thinking about plants in general. Have you tried eating cactuses or Venus flytraps and seeing if you get the same thing? Because those are some tough freaking plants right there. You know what I mean? You might start growing spikes on your back. You never know.
That's funny. Yeah, honestly, I haven't, but that's actually kind of an interesting argument.
Hole in this theory, folks. We haven't tried all of them yet.
I know, right? Venus flytraps that can, eat you back. Maybe they don't have as many.
Dude, I'm saying it's like a battle. Every breakfast is a fight for your life. I think that'd be great.
And then I was looking at your social media, and you have almost a pretty much, I would say, a viral video of the vacation diet. So that's big for me. Everyone that like kicks us in gear, like, all right, I gotta go to Mexico or going to Hawaii. All right, I better start dieting. I mean, I hear it all the time. What does that look like? What is it? Say I come to you, Akash, and I'm like, all right, I need to lose 10, 15 pounds. How do I do this? What do I start first? What do I cut out? No carbs, or what am I looking at?
Yeah, totally. So, for most people usually start thinking about getting in shape like 4 to 6 weeks out of their vacations. Usually when it hits people, they're like really motivated. I'd say first try to start 12 weeks out, 16 weeks out. The more time you give yourself, the better.
Yeah, that's a long time.
I know, right? But then you look better too. But
if you get like 4 weeks, that's like
yeah. So in the 4 week example,
starts,
typically, right? That's what happens. So first thing you want to do is cut out your carbohydrates. What you want to do is you want to clean out a glucose, clean out of your carbohydrates. What you want to do is one of two things. You either one, want to switch into a mode of ketosis, or two, you want to be in a very low carbohydrate state so that you're burning more energy than you actually have, so you tap into body fat. If you're in ketosis, you'll just be burning body fat for energy around the clock. I like the ketosis thing. Certain people just need to eat some amount of carbs. So I'd say at least take 3 days and zero them out. Don't eat any carbs in your training. Don't do too much cardio. Just focus on the weight training and the muscle contraction, so you can keep the things that look good, things that you're trying to make pronounced on your body, your muscles, your aesthetics, so you can keep those intact. Don't go too intense in the gym, because the more intensity you train with, the more hungry you're gonna get. And it's really about managing your calorie intake versus expenditure. So your diet is what's going to dial you in the most for vacation, not like necessarily like upping your cardio a ton and doing that. I find that it's way better to just like nail your diet, your protein intake on point, have a moderate fat intake if you're doing a low carbohydrate approach. And low carbohydrate meaning you're cycling between anywhere from 50 to maybe 200, 250 grams of carbs throughout the week. And a keto approach should be pretty much zero carbs and then a higher fat. And making sure your protein's about a gram per pound of body weight. If you're doing the keto approach, you can do, basically 2 grams of fat per pound of body weight, keeping it simple, and then pretty much zero carbs. And if you're doing a low carbohydrate approach, you can do maybe like half of your you can do like a moderate fat intake. You can do like 1/3 of your body weight in fat, for example. You can do that, and then keep your carbs like, you know, moderate, anywhere from 50 to 150. But just really focusing on the training aspect in like not going too hard in the gym, because then you just end up like some people like, oh, I need to do all this running cardio, and the next thing you know, they're just like their body's in this stressed out state. And then it's easy to binge. It's like, oh, because your body's like fiending for energy. You just did this crazy intense workout, and now you're just digging into a box of cereal, eating everything.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen me. We have a home gym up here, and I love the stair mill. That's like my thing. I love the stair mill. I can do that thing for like an hour and a half. I put the TV on. I get so hungry that I'm just miserable. But now I went on a really strict diet. I lost, I think, 18 pounds in about 14 days.
That's really good.
Yeah, I did the intermittent fasting, and I pushed it till 2.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm a psycho with stuff. I can't just ease into it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm like, it was 12 to 7. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to 2, and just keep pushing it and see how I can go without eating. It's a really a battle internally with yourself, what you can do. And I haven't really done much workout, to be honest. I got a back issue that we're going to segue for the peptides in a little bit. But I've seen more results in dieting really, really strictly for 2 to 3 weeks rather than eating okay and doing an hour and a half of stairs. There you go. You know, but it's a learning lesson, and I feel everyone's different too.
Yeah, and totally do the cardio if you feel good doing the cardio. Just, you know, what you want to do is like if you feel in a good mood doing it, then continue. If you're feeling really stressed out, either one, drop the intensity, meaning, you know, move slower. You know, if you're on the incline, maybe put the incline. If you're on the incline treadmill, put the incline down. Go to lower speed. If you're on the stairs, you know, put the speed down. And then try moving really slowly, because that's still burning calories and tapping into body fat. But if you're in a horrible mood, that's a sign that your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is spiked. And when you're in a stressed out state, your body's in a fight or flight mode. And it goes back to our primal responses when, you know, back in the caveman days, when you're in a fight or flight mode, your body's in emergency mode. And fat is actually stored energy for emergencies. So it thinks that you're running away from like an animal. Times are bad right now, because it's just using the fact that you're stressed out as a metric, as like a marker to be like, oh, okay, don't be burning fat. That's what we need for survival right now. So it actually, when you're in a stressed out state, it actually turns off fat loss.
And do you recommend? Everyone has different views on when you should do cardio. Is it morning fasted cardio is really popular, or at night? I feel at night, right? I feel you have all those calories in you and you're about to go to bed. Why not do your cardio at night? Because if I do it early in the morning, I'm starving the whole day. That's all I'm thinking about is food, you know? So I don't know. What is your take on that?
I'd say personal preference. You know, the morning, there's the benefit of like you have a faster metabolism throughout the day if you do it in the morning. But also at nighttime, just like you said, you have more meals in you, right? So you have more energy at nighttime. You can. I would say experiment with both. You know, try post-workout, try morning, try nighttime. Also schedule whenever you can get it in. I think it's really just personal preference. Where can you be consistent?
I think it's somewhat fascinating because everyone else that I've heard talk about getting in shape, it's always about diet and exercise. You're one of the few that I've heard talk about the impact of stressing out and anxiety and those sort of things. When did you realize that mind and soul needed to be a part of this, that it wasn't just, let's just get my six pack and not worry about like what I'm thinking about, what I'm dealing with? Like, when did you start to understand that that was like an issue, or that was something that you wanted to be a central focus?
You know, I'd say through prepping for bodybuilding competitions, dieting to a really low body fat, you really get to know yourself. And I remember I would have a poor relationship with food. After a show, I would go and gain a ton of weight, eat everything in sight, and feel like shit. And that was because I felt deprived when I was competing, even though it's kind of what you need to do if that's what your end goals were. At that time, I thought I wanted to, you know, turn pro and do the whole fitness modeling thing, and then have the coaching aspect too, but really go that whole fitness model journey. You know, and then I ended up evolving into like, you know, actually, I'm passionate about business and helping people, and let me grow that aspect of my life, and that which doesn't entail me needing to be around like 4 or 5% body fat for a bodybuilding show, right? So then I pretty much that's what birthed the kind of lifestyle. Still looking really good, but like I don't need to be bodybuilder shredded. So then I'm like, wow, I really feel a lot better, not stressing my body out like this, doing a ton of cardio on a super calorie deficit. Just, digging deep like that every single day, going to those dark places where, you're not eating carbohydrates, you're prepping for a show. That was not my jam. So yeah, I'd say about 3-4 years into bodybuilding, I must have been maybe 23 or so when I, kind of had more of a spiritual awakening too.
Yeah, and you said you started kind of focusing on that aspect, but when you were about 15 years old, you said I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and
Yeah,
you
about
wanted
seventh, eighth grade.
yeah, 7th or 8th grade, you wanted to focus on that, and you got into it, and what were some of those experiences like, showing up to a show and things like that, where all of a sudden, like you say, maybe you haven't eaten anything for a few days just to make sure you don't have that extra little fat? I mean, what's that like? Are you getting lightheaded on stage ever, anything like that?
Yeah. That's a good question. So when I was prepping for nationals, I remember it was in Vegas. It was for the biggest show I was gonna do. My diet was really intense, was on a lot of compounds, just really, aggravated. But I was in a good mood because I was aligned with what I was doing. But yeah, there were a couple moments with the water depletion where I'm like just so thirsty. Like I'm not even thinking about food. I'm like, I can't wait to just have a Gatorade later. Because the water cut, that's probably the most intense thing. Every bodybuilder will tell you it's the dieting is grueling, but those last couple of days when you're cutting water and you're just really sucked out just to make sure the skin is wrapped around the muscle, because that's what that's the sport. That's what they're judging. They're judging your anatomy. So the more, anatomical you look, the more, inside out that you look, the more that they can, from a bodybuilding perspective, we can see more of your musculature, muscle structure. So, I mean, they're going to get more points for being leaner. In that's the mindset. So what comes with that is, a lot of stress.
And you mentioned compounds, the elephant in the room with bodybuilders, pro athletes, is steroids. I mean, you look at those bodybuilders, and it's part of the sport. What have you experimented with? What has worked? What can you tell, like, say, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid's watching this? And I personally think that's the worst age to do any kind of pro hormone, steroid, peptide, anything. I think your body needs to develop till 25, 30. But what is your experiences with steroids now that you're getting a little older, and it's, you don't think about that when you're in your 20s and you're,
You don't think about
18,
anything
19.
in your 20s, really.
think
but
about
yeah.
anything.
You just want to get as big and ripped as you can. And now you have more of a knowledge of compounds and steroids and things like that. What can you tell, I guess, listeners that are, because they look at bodybuilders and like, all right, like I hear you, Akaash, you got to eat, cut out all the carbs, work out every day. But then it's like, okay, what else do I got to do?
Yeah,
Totally. What do you tell a guy 17, 18?
I started training naturally first. I stayed natural for the first 4 years of my training. And then, mind you, like I'm not saying like 4 years on and off. Like I remember I didn't take 1,000 days off the gym. I went to the gym 1,000 days straight from when I started to like, I remember I didn't miss any days. Like even then after 1,000, I know for sure I made it 1,000 days, but probably longer than that.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, all that.
Yeah. I had my 2 designated rest days, but I was always in the gym. I think because I remember I was like calling 24 Hour Fitness. They're closed on Christmas. Christmas Eve, they'd be open till 2 p.m. I was there, 9 a.m. I would always find a way when we were traveling. I'd go like figure out what gyms are going on there. Hotel gym, whatever it took. I would get those 5 training days a week, no matter what. So, I mean, that's what's really going to create the physique, is that level of discipline and consistency. So with that, and then with the time variable on there, I would say put at least 3 to 5 years into training naturally, because for one, on one hand, you don't want to do anything before age 25 in a perfect world. I started training at 15, so I think I hopped onto a cycle at like age 20. Yeah, I was about 20 years old, which is on the younger side. I'm not saying anyone should do that. That's just my personal experience. But I was already like, I had like maxed out my natural limits at that age. I think I was like 190 with abs at 5'10", so 190 with the body fat lean enough to like see a full 6-pack. And I was like 5'10". So, anyone that understands bodybuilding and metrics and stuff like that, that's like it's maxing out my natural frame. I might have gained an extra 5 pounds over the next like 2 to 3 years. And I wanted to go into bodybuilding and, I wanted to go into fitness modeling and have a career in that industry. And that was my justification. But yeah, totally. Your hormones can take an impact. And, I also hit puberty a little bit, early and stuff like that. But the main thing is I had already put 4 years in the gym completely natural. You can take protein, take some creatine if you want to. Even if you want to take a natural test booster, some herbs and things like that, sure, go for it. But don't actually take a synthetic compound, like something that's replacing your natural production of testosterone, because you're so young, your body's creating so much of it. Unless you're in that rare case, and again, this isn't like a medical advice or something like that. Just my thoughts, you know what I mean?
We are not doctors here.
We're not doctors.
I
No, we're
am.
not doctors.
I'm a doctor. Listen to me.
The love doctor. The love doctor. My girlfriend says I'm the love doctor.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no, I'm curious. You talk about, putting on all this muscle, and then for about 2 years, you can only put on about 4 or 5 pounds. I got to think.
Naturally, yeah, man. I got to put on 30 already,
But that's what I'm saying. I got to think that must have been tough for you, because it sounds like
I was going to the gym getting no results,
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's one of the toughest things for a lot of people, I think, is, more often than not, we expect the instant results. So that's got to be tough when you didn't necessarily get instant results, but you got results, and then
I got amazing results. And then I kind of maxed out my natural physique, and I was trying to compete with like adults and have this like 3D superhuman look and that you see with these fitness models and stuff. And at the time I'm like 19, 20, working at Vitamin Shop, you know what I mean? Like trying to just, do it like just in great shape, don't get me wrong, but not in that like professional fitness model type of a shape. And I was totally just trying to shortcut the learning, the curve. But the main thing is I already put like 4 years in. Could I have looked better over the next 1 to 2 years? Yeah, I would have gained a couple of pounds, but I wouldn't have gained like the 10 to 15 that I would have needed to really complete my physique, and just the level of hardness and density that steroids gives you when you already have a proper frame. Build your frame. I want to go back to this. Build your frame, guys. Do that naturally. Build a natural foundation of muscle, and then make the decision to enhance from there. Preferably be at least 25. And then also be aware that, it's a huge commitment. You're injecting a hormone into your body, and it's shutting down your natural testosterone production. There's a lot of some people don't bring back their natural testosterone because either they don't post cycle properly, or B, they don't have the proper coaching or resources, or C, they just unfortunately are in that subset of people where they just never come back the same.
Yeah, there's some horror stories that I've seen. I've been in the supplement industry, like I said, for years, and I'd have guys come to my shop and like, man, I can't.
Their dick doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't get it up, and they're devastated.
Devastated.
Their wife thinks there's something wrong with her, that why can't he perform? And I've seen that time and time again. And the worst one, it's a double-edged sword, because Trenibol is incredible.
Tren, yeah.
Tren is incredible. I mean, I might have dabbled into it, in my late 20s, and I took 25% of the normal dosage that a normal, I think it's like a 1 cc 3 times a week, whatever that was. I did 25% of this. I did 0.25, and really, really in the low end. I'm like, and I know it causes mental issues. I know all the side effects, but I was doing tests through my doctor, and I'm like, I just want to put a little bit of Tren in there. I'm at the gym, and I'm seeing all these guys like that, and they're like, yeah, it's Tren. And I did it for about 4 weeks, and it was incredible what it did to my body, that small of a dosage. But on the other end, I knew there's going to be psychological effects. It's called the relationship killer for obviously, reasons. But it messes with your head. It really does. And I knew I was cognizant of it going into it, and it was still, man, I'm a little agitated. This is bothering me. I'm depressed. I'm happy. I'm like, I was done. So after 4 weeks, it was incredible results. It's just not worth it. I've seen guys come in, like I said, almost in tears. I've had many buddies, depression, spousal abuse, everything. What is your take on that? What was your experience with that? Because that's a powerful drug.
Yeah, I've used Tren
So is
before.
it Trenibol or Tren?
Trenbolone,
So
Tren,
yeah.
short for Trenbolone. It's probably the most powerful steroid out there. Very, very toxic. I don't recommend anyone take it. If you are an athlete and you're training for a powerlifting competition or a bodybuilding show, you kind of need to take it almost. If that's not your goal, if you're just working out for recreation just to look good, yeah, please don't use it. You know what I mean? It's just there's a whole bunch of consequences that you have to account for. I'm a naturally like happy, joyous person. I was way more on edge, way more aggressive, way more to jump at jump to a fight if someone said something snappy to me.
It's completely out of character, right? You're not
Yeah,
like that.
I'm not usually like that,
But
right?
you knew going into it,
Right.
that,
Yeah.
this was, you were kind of prepped for it, right?
Right. Yeah, but still, I mean, you're going through it. You can you can get night sweats, night terrors. High blood pressure, bumps up your prolactin. You can have gynecomastia from it. Whole myriad of side effects that as bodybuilders, if you have the right coaching and the right advisors around you, when you're doing things properly, if you're a competitor and athlete and that's what you're trying to do. If that's not what you're trying to do, I don't think you have any business taking it. It messes up your blood work. It's horrible for your liver, horrible for your cholesterol. If you're drinking on it, it can kill you. You know what I mean? Like it's horrible. Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Because I mean, you're around a lot of your buddies that were on it. What is the craziest?
Like as far as like someone lashing out, or
just a crazy event. Like,
Man, I don't
okay,
know.
wow, that must have been the trend.
I've been at the gym and I've just seen people just like crazy, angry, grunting, aggressive, slamming weights. I'm like, that's trend for sure. Like for sure. Like just like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, yeah, like just like looking like they're one of those like Norse swordsmen in the movie The Northman, and they're like doing the little like haka thing, you know what I mean? I'm probably butchering it, but they're like about to go raid a village, and they're
Looking like shaved gorillas up in there and
yeah,
shit.
yeah. Great movie, by the way. But yeah, no, that was happening in the gym. Like, okay, that's for sure.
Something's going on.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it just ruins your blood work. It's really unhealthy, and then God forbid you're drinking on it. I mean, these things can like you need your liver to live.
And there's long-term effects.
I mean, it's very suppressive to your testosterone. All these things have long-term effects. So like the shutdown, you're completely shut down. Coming back from it, right? I mean, it's an art, it's a skill. Like you really have to understand chemistry and your blood work and getting constant blood work done, which no one does. No one like really does the proper monitoring. And even athletes.
And what do you take now? Is it
right now? I take nothing. So I'm on my own. My own balls make my testosterone
Wow,
right now.
that's
My own
impressive.
balls. Right, my own balls make my testosterone. For the longest, I was on TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy, which I'm a big advocate of. Because a lot of people have low tests, especially in this day and age with the modern, Western diet, American diet. Food is the biggest testosterone killer, and then the lack of diet and exercise. So I work with a lot of business guys and stuff. We get their blood work done and stuff like that, and they have like low T. You know what I mean? So I have affiliations with like various, clinics and whatnot, endocrinologists. We go and we get them prescribed testosterone, like all legally. They get their scripts, they can travel with it, get shipped to them and whatnot. But the main thing is optimizing their testosterone levels. Me being currently 27, like I was like, for the last like 2 years, because I was bodybuilding, like I still bodybuilding.
You're
for
only
like 3
27?
years. I'm 27.
Oh man, what I do to be 27?
Right.
I didn't know that. I thought you were in your
Yeah,
early
you seem
30s,
much more
mid-30s.
mature than 27. So yeah.
Yeah, see, that's the whole thing. I started puberty early and just kind of got into life early, right? So, I mean, like, all the time I get, like, 30, 31, that's typical and stuff, right? So, being 27, I'm like, okay, cool. For me, I was bodybuilding. So then from there, I just, was just chilling on testosterone only. And then, so me and the wifey, we're thinking about having kids in the next, like, 1 to 2 years. So I'm like, all right, let me, turn on my natural factory. Because that's another thing, you know what I mean? I want to still be fertile. So, I'm like, yeah, let me just take a year off, like all testosterone and all that stuff, I've already built my muscle. I go to the gym. I eat a really good diet to fuel my physique. And the muscle's like there. As long as you keep stimulating it, like it sticks with you. So, I just got off properly, did my post-cycle therapy, got my blood work. I've always been consistent on my blood work. So I took HCG, clomiphene citrate, tamoxifen citrate, these things that are basically turn on your natural testosterone in short. And so I just got my blood work back. My testosterone's about 500. So, you know what I mean? It's still building up. I've been off now probably about 3 months actually. So not too long. Prior to that, I was just on, testosterone replacement therapy, like no other steroids or anything like that for like the last 2 years.
Do you consider testosterone a steroid?
You know, if you're taking it, if you're just optimizing your natural testosterone levels, I don't think it's like a steroid. It's like, I think of steroids things that are enhancing. You know, some people will say, yeah, it is. You know, and all steroids are made from testosterone essentially. So, but if you're just like if you're maxing out your natural testosterone levels, like if you're like in your late 30s or mid 30s or 40s, 50s, and you're just going back to where it was at 25, you know, yeah, I mean, you can make the argument it's a steroid, but it's just, I think it's a hormone. You know, it's just a hormone.
I think it's kind of sad just talking about, you know, the side effects that a lot of these things have. For really, it's a short term, you know, positive for these long term negatives. I think if it was presented to people, hey, listen, do you want to get super ripped? Also, your dick isn't going to work, and you might not have a liver in 5 years. I think that would be a
but
different.
I got a six pack,
right? I think that would be a different, you know. Oh, okay, I see what's going on now thing. Whereas, you know, I think they just see the positive results on stage, going, okay, that guy's jacked as hell. I'm going to do what he's doing. And I feel bad. And like you say, a lot of times these things are counteracting with other things, you know?
Right. You know, it's kind of a commitment. Like, you know, like 9 times out of 10, you got to be ready to stay on testosterone the rest of your life. You know what I mean? You got to be ready to do that 1 injection a week and a lot of people think they're ready for that. I you know what I mean? Like it's a commitment. You know, you're putting a needle in your body once a week.
It's an expense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to pay for that. Like, you know
Blood
what I
work,
mean? You got
everything.
blood work. You got to, you know, this is, you know, it's an expense. That's a good point. It's an expense. You know, can you just do a whole bunch of steroids and like taper down to testosterone, just, you know, balance out your body like that, like me, and then post cycle and come off? You can, but you got to be very disciplined. You got to have the genetics for it. And then are you okay with your body not looking super crazy? Like, you know, the psychological aspect of it. A lot of people don't take that into consideration. And, you know, when you're doing a cycle, like you don't need too much. You can just take testosterone only and get phenomenal results. You don't need, most people like do like test and trend as their first cycle. It's crazy. Or taking D-ball or something like that. You don't need a lot. You know what I mean? You can get a lot from just a little bit.
Speaking of a lot, tell us about your 20 pounds of muscles in 30 days.
Yeah.
So like what did you start with? What weight? What did you take? And how did you feel? Like, how did that even happen? You're like, I want to put on.
So the way
20
it
pounds
happened
in a week
was
or a month.
my buddy. Yeah. So my buddy, Tony Huge, who owns Enhanced Athlete.
I know Tony.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So we're good friends. Generation Iron approached him like, hey, we want to do a documentary on you. And just for you guys that are listening, he's basically really big on performance enhancers. He's a big advocate for essentially steroids and using chemicals and, you know, taking these things to enhance your body. He's, you know, he always advocates for doing it in a safe manner, because there's a whole bunch of steroids that are much on the cleaner side, and for maintaining your diet properly and you're doing all these things, which my point of saying this, most people don't do all the things to stay safe. You can, you know, stay healthy while you're, you know, taking steroids, assuming that you're taking a moderate dosage, you're using the less toxic ones, and then you're cycling on and off, or blasting and cruising, you know what I mean? Which basically is, you know, you're taking a couple compounds that are on the cleaner side, you know, like maybe like a Mastron or a Primobolan, short-term Anavar, things like that. And then maybe you're doing that for 3-4 months, then you're off for another 4 or 5 months of just testosterone only. And testosterone by itself is fine, because that's the same thing that our balls are producing. It's bioidentical. So our body very, very well understands that. It's not liver toxic or anything like that. So that's the cool part about testosterone replacement therapy. You can go back to, you know, your testosterone levels that it was at 25 as you're an athlete at age, like, you know, 40. But, you know, I digress. To circle back around to 20 pounds of muscle. So he approached me. He's like, hey, I'm doing this transformation. So basically they want to document, you know, how much muscle that we can add, you know, in the shortest amount of time with all this chemistry. And then I'm like, wow, Generation Iron, just like, it's a big bodybuilding documentary company. I was going to get a lot of publicity. At that point, I was doing a lot of fitness coaching, so it would be great notoriety for the brand. You know, I was young, and I was just like, yeah, fuck it. I was like, fuck it. I was like, fuck it. Yeah. I remember it was very stressful for my body, but it was a short-term amount of stress, and, you know, I got a lot of business from it. Currently, I'm super healthy. I don't, you know, I don't have anything.
Taking?
Yeah. I was able, because I'm smart, you know, I was actually able to, you know, stay moderately healthy and then come back to, I remember after I put on the 20 pounds of muscle, I started just doing a whole bunch of MMA and stopped weightlifting for like a month just to drop all the weight. You know what I mean? I would just go hit bags all day and just do like MMA style workouts, very little weights just to get this muscle off me. It was crazy. But it was a ton of growth hormone and insulin. Insulin's super dangerous. Don't ever touch that. Don't ever do it. You can die easily. If you're miscalculating the amount of sugar that you intake, you can have a blood sugar crash, your brain turns off, you start spazzing out, pass out, heart stops, it's all bad. I had a couple close calls.
Really? During that time?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Luckily, I'm smart, and I had like Sour Patch Kids and honey in my gym bag. Right, I'm working out, burning glucose, took insulin before the workout with growth hormone. I'm slamming the weights, pumping. You can just feel yourself building muscle like in all day long. It's crazy. But I took some testosterone, couple different SARMs. And it was mainly insulin and growth hormone at a high dose with a ton of food, like sushi buffets every day post-workout. And insulin, you can think about that. That's like jet fueling all the calories into your muscle. And then you're taking growth hormone, which basically makes the body grow at a high dosage. Those two things together have a synergistic, crazy muscle building effect. But that's such a load on your heart. So your blood pressure's up. You feel like crap. You're always tired.
So you don't recommend that?
No, please don't ever do it. You can watch it on YouTube. You can type in Generation
I'm
Iron.
definitely checking this out. This sounds awesome.
Wasn't there a movie on Netflix?
Yeah.
I know, was that on,
It was
that
on
the
Netflix.
movie?
It was on Netflix for a while.
What's the name of it?
I think it's Generation Iron.
And it's not on Netflix anymore?
It's not on Netflix anymore. You know how
Okay.
Netflix does
Yeah.
takes
Goes
things
away,
off.
comes
and stuff.
back,
So it was
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I was on Netflix. It was cool. And
Yeah.
then, but it's still on YouTube, so you can check that out.
I almost died on Netflix.
I know.
right?
There were a couple close calls.
Check
there were
it
a couple
out. Give
close
me some
calls.
views. Watch me, suffer terribly.
And it was crazy because if I ate anything that was like a bad food, like bad meaning like higher in sodium, like more processed or anything, like I would blow up and retain so much water because like the body's just so hyper efficient in like intaking all the food that the way sodium interacts without getting too sciencey, the way sodium interacts with insulin and growth hormone is you retain a whole bunch of water, and then you can retain water around your organs and your heart, which can really stress your heart. So if you're eating like a high sodium intake in your food, which is all outside food that's processed or at a restaurant has a high sodium intake. So I really have to keep my food super clean, and sushi, like not even doing like the soy sauce or anything like that. Just having just fish and rice, not even the deep fried rolls and stuff, because
Those are the good ones, though.
yeah, I know.
What
I know.
the hell?
I know, right? So I really have to manage my diet. This back to the whole diet thing, right? There were a couple times where I did eat something bad and I really felt the stress in my heart. I had to like take certain, diuretics and minerals to like mineral balance my body and then, shed the water. So really unsafe stuff, and you can totally die doing that.
So don't recommend
Don't do it.
Don't do it. No, it's one thing that you keep going back to is talking about you need to be disciplined. You need to be on top of your thing. And I think it's obvious that you have that going with you. The fact that you mentioned right now you're 27, we think you're much older because of how mature you are. You're talking about a 15-year-old, where I'm thinking about myself at 15. We just, we're idiots. We're thinking about all kinds of different things. We're really not stuck on any one thing. The fact that you found
What's changed here, Tim?
nothing. But that's what I'm saying. 15 is even worse because you're just this, like, it's funny. I always think about this, like when you're 15, you basically are like almost the size of an adult and you have all like the speed and endurance of a child still. Like it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're just like made out of rubber. You bounce off the walls, you come right back. But
Yeah.
like I say, I think that's pretty impressive that a 15-year-old is able to say, I want to focus on this 1,000 straight days in the gym after that. Like, I mean, that's impressive. I really have to take my hat off to you there. And I think that's really hard because 15 to 18 is when you're getting invited to a lot of house parties. There's a lot of things going on. Did you find that you had to miss out on a lot of things because you were so focused on that?
I was so focused on, and I wasn't the coolest kid anyway, so no one really wanted to invite me around.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, but I ended up gathering a lot of popularity just from like everyone just seeing me be jacked and playing football in school and sucking at football and starting, by junior year, and then wear the jerseys, veins busting out of you. I'm the most muscular guy at school. Everyone, coach just pulling me aside, like, "Hey, are you taking steroids? Like, what's going on?" You know what I mean? I was fully natural. I think it's some creatine monohydrate. That's about it.
It's the best when someone questions, are you cheating? No, I'm just natural, buddy. It's just,
Yeah,
hey, what
just,
you
just
gonna
crazy
do?
work ethic. So you know what I mean. If you're already doing that already, right? If you're already like that, and you've been, people can keep that up for a month or two, but can you keep that up for years? And that's really what differentiates successful people, great people from average. Is really the sheer just consistency of it. Doing the same thing day in and day out. I mean, there were so many days that I'm just like crying in my bed, tired, but I know I have to go to the gym, and I just get up and I go.
And then segueing from steroids to peptides, right? That's the big craze right now.
Peptides are cool.
It's taken over Hollywood. It's everywhere. There's clinics, diet clinics opening every block now. Tell us about that. So, well, before we do that, the backstory, kind of ironic. I got a terrible back. Hurt it in college playing football, and ever since it's been a constant injury. But I've always been able to bounce back. Got in my 40s, definitely changed. So I went from, all right, I'll tweak it a little bit, take a week, 2 off the gym, get a couple massages, I'm good. It doesn't happen anymore. It's constant. I've tried acupuncture. I've tried massage. I've tried physical therapy. I've tried everything, and nothing's been able to work. I've tried cortisone shots, you name it. So I reached out to you. I know you're big in the peptides, and we're actually going to do an injection. Are we not on the podcast?
Yeah.
So I want you to just kind of go over what is a peptide, what are the positives of it, what are the side effects? Because I've taken one. It's called the semi-gluten.
Semi-glutide.
Yeah, that didn't work out well for me. I was in hot yoga, almost passed out. Oh no! Yeah. So that one. What are the ones that you recommend, and what do they do?
You know, I can't. Well, I'm not a doctor, so I don't recommend anything. But you know, speaking so, don't listen to me. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, from my personal experience. No, I really like peptides, especially the healing peptides. What they are, it's an amino acid chain, and the amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, and the amino acids are held together by a peptide bond. So there are different amino acid chains that are held together by a peptide bond that interact with the proteins in your body to turn on certain signals in the body to tell the body to do X, to do Y, to do Z. And that's why they call them peptides.
Got it.
Yeah.
But there's millions of them, right?
There's a whole bunch, right? So like there's peptides that clear up your hair, skin, nails. There's peptides that, are really good for your gut health. There's peptides that make your fat metabolism faster. There's peptides that make your protein synthesis and muscle building faster. There's peptides that increase your IGF levels, your growth hormone in your body. So they're just signals that tells your body like, okay, hey, turn this thing on inside yourself. The peptides that we're focusing on for you, real quick, the semi-glutide, the one you had a problem, the one that's really big on in Hollywood, that one basically makes you less hungry. So it limits the amount of ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. It turns that one off, so you just get less hungry in the day.
I felt terrible.
Ghrelin is a hormone that makes you hungry. But some of these, that's what I'm saying. All these things are so different. Like some people have a lot of side effects, some people don't. Some people feel really good on semi-glutide. I notice it does better for like people that are just like obese. You know what I mean? Like because they're just like so fat, they're already so tired and sluggish.
Stop looking at me when you say that.
I wasn't not looking at you, Tim. I made a conscious effort to look the other way.
But that's even worse. The fact that you had to make an effort not to look at me because you knew you were talking about me. I am not obese. Actually, I am. I am very obese according to my BMI. But still, I am a beast. I agree.
Yeah. You're an beast. There you go.
Obese.
A beast. There you go.
No, but that's funny that you're saying there are certain people, I've always said that having this extra layer of fat actually helps a lot of times. You know what I mean? There are certain things that fat people can handle more so than people that got all that nothing but, fat to hang on to, I find. But for the most part, it's just a matter of heat. You know what I mean? I'm just always a lot hotter than these skinny guys walking around. I say that.
Dad bods are in.
Yeah, right. Throw on a sweater there, skinny boy. Let's go. I'm walking around shirtless, flapping it around. But no, that's funny. So the different peptides do different things. You're talking about, so basically what they're aiming for are receptors almost in a way, right? They're trying to basically say, hey, do this thing at a better level. Do this thing that you're not doing. So really interesting. I find the science behind these things, it's fascinating, and it's
peptides actually occur in the body, not to cut you off, but your body makes peptides, right? So you're basically like your body creates them. They're all from what's happening inside of you. So you're just taking that to basically turn that signal on, yeah.
So if I pick my nose right now, there's a chance there's a peptide in there.
There's a chance there's
right?
a peptide.
It's my body's producing it. But no, like I say, I just think it's fascinating the way science, we can take something that the body naturally produces and extrapolate it and find out, okay, this is why it's producing this. How do we increase this? How do we, take that out? And I find it so fascinating. Also, just like talking about, like, you're saying different kinds of workouts too, the way science has changed the way we work out. You were talking about different sports. I remember, seeing like football players doing that thing where they would jump out of a pool, like that is something I never saw anyone do before, but it's just a matter of showing your explosiveness and jumping ability. And I would see a lot of people doing the box jumps, things like that. And I swear that was only something I saw basketball players and football players doing. Then I started seeing other people doing that too. Like, do you find that there's any particular workouts that athletes have been kind of doing that have really just sort of come into the main focus? You know what I mean? Things that maybe we weren't doing before. Like I said, for me, I was doing deadlifts and squats. We don't really do that much anymore. Now it's more the resistance training. Like, do you find there's more things like that coming into play that, you've seen, oh, I see the way these football guys do this, so I'm going to take that from them, kind of thing?
I'd say deadlifting is very important just for being a strong man, right? Having a strong back and strong posture, back squatting, bench pressing, right? And then lifting actual iron, I'm a big advocate of that. I really feel like your joints are stronger if you lift weight properly, because if you already have injured joints, then it makes sense to like only do band training because it's very easier on your joints. But if you can actually lift actual weight, if you look at the NBA, more NBA players are getting injured today in like the last 10 years. There's so many more injuries. But if you actually look back in like the 70s and 80s, if you look at the statistics about NBA players athletes in general, just getting injured, there were far less injuries because they were actually weight training. Now in like the combine, in their clinics and in their training camps, there's a lot of resistance band work, which is great, but they're minimized weight training a lot. And there's actually, you think about it, there's like less beat down on the body with the resistance band. So when you go into doing something high impact, the body is less used to that high impact. It's like it's training with that even keel, tapered up resistance that very well may be like a variable resistance. That is good. It's great for muscle contraction, you can build strength that way, but the joint itself isn't getting strengthened at moving this impact weight that's stationary. It's like a weight, right? You're bench pressing this iron, that thing's not going up or down in resistance. It's just there. So you're not having that practice of being in your weakest moments and being where your joints are the weakest and moving that weight. You can actually move more weight with resistance bands than you can with the actual stationary weight, especially if it's variable resistance.
And so for peptides, when you're talking about the NBA,
it's weight training guys, lift actual weight.
In NBA, NFL, MLB, is peptides illegal now, or can it come up in a blood test, or?
Yeah. I think all these things are illegal, but every athlete's taking them. You know what I mean? Every
but
professional
peptides
athlete
show up. Do you know if they show up in blood tests?
Yeah, that's.
I always wonder, is that like a loophole to kind of beat the system?
They do. Yeah. I think they do. So don't quote me on that, but I think they do show up. I would imagine probably they do.
I would think it would show up more so in like, wow, these certain levels are a lot higher than they should be, kind of thing. But I don't know. I don't know that you could actually point to clearly you took a peptide where, like you say, if someone just suddenly has a higher, I'm trying to think that the creatine, is that what you said? The
creatine.
No, the thing that the hunger
ghrelin.
Ghrelin,
yeah,
right?
Hormone.
So like, for instance, they might say, wow, your ghrelin is super high or super low. This doesn't seem right, but I don't really know. That's an interesting question. Is that something that can be checked?
I don't know. I just Googled it.
Yeah.
So this says they can technically be detectable for 1 to 3 months after use. They're getting really fancy with these tests.
And then as I'm getting injected here in the podcast, what am I getting injected with? Which ones?
Right. So you're getting injected with the healing peptides. They're called BPC 157 and TB 500. They work phenomenally synergistically. So these are actually healing peptides. So they promote healing.
So it goes right into my injury.
They work well with you want to inject it local to where the injury is. It kind of just hangs out in that area and just drives the effects of the peptide to that spot. It's pretty interesting. One of the main things it does is the combination of the two. They create new blood vessels for one. So there's more blood vessels. So blood vessels are what blood uses to travel. And your red blood cells are like transporters for nutrients. So if you think about it, you're trying to heal something, the nutrients that your body needs to get to that area, like the little choo-choo trains to get there, are like the blood vessels. So you actually create more blood vessels, so there's more pathways for nutrients to travel to. And also they lower it's called actin. Actin basically, it's a hormone that essentially is responsible for the mobility and the division of cells. So it makes it so they promote higher levels of actin. So the cell is now more malleable to what it needs to become to fix the problem, and you're just hyper enhancing the entire healing the healing dynamic in the body that would naturally occur. You're just like supercharging that.
Yeah, right now my back is just begging for it. I mean, just literally in pain all the time. So what I'm going to do is you guys continue. I'm going to get the peptides.
Get it ready.
They're refrigerated. Is there a reason why they're refrigerated?
Do we have rubbing alcohol?
Yes, I got that.
Yes.
And why are they refrigerated? They're here and they're refrigerated.
They're sensitive to heat. That's all.
Okay, got it. All right, well, I'm going to grab those and I'm going to get injected on the podcast. I'm going to get healed, but there's a lot of listeners out there, I'm sure, in the same boat. They've tried everything. I mean, this has been since October. I've tried everything. Like, I've tried nothing. I've tried just resting. And I'm really, really interested. I know everyone's listening is interested to see, what's going to happen.
Just check it out on Google or YouTube, guys. You can always Google BPC 157, TB 500. Healing results, healing testimonials. It's used a lot in the medical field. There's plenty of doctors talking about this. Go on YouTube. There's a plethora of videos of people have healed severe injuries, ACLs, tendon ligament tears. I myself, like I was talking about, like my wrist, my shoulder pain, people pectoral tears, shoulder shoulder to chest insertion tears.
See, when I Google, though, I Google
so much
side effects.
Oh yeah. There's not that many. There's not that many side effects. So you can get certain side effects, but it's very the percent chance, the likelihood that you'll have any of these side effects manifest is very low. It's like a 1 to 5% chance, and then the side effects are like tiredness, brain fog.
Oh, he doesn't have to worry about that. That's a normal thing.
Yeah,
so.
like nausea, things like
might
that.
actually clear the fog up a little bit. His head's like San Francisco in a freaking summer afternoon day. Like, let me just tell you, it's bad out there. But yeah, no, it's really fascinating. Like I say, I love just sort of the way things progress. Like the way, like you say, you find these things out. I was reading a couple of on your Instagram page. I insta stalked you a little bit because that's I got to do my due diligence here, but. I had seen that a gentleman had basically told you that he had tried everything and nothing worked. And I think it was the peptide injections where he said all of a sudden he could do a flat bench that he hadn't been able to do in almost 4 years or something like that. So I think that's a big thing because there's so many people that are out there dealing with chronic pain. We're talking about someone who played football in college who still has a back injury. Myself, for me, it's my ankles. I've sprained each of my ankles numerous times to the point where I feel pain in that constantly. And so I think this is an important thing that people can understand, that you don't need to be in constant pain all the time. There are other ways of dealing with it, and I find it funny that we this seems like a very natural way of dealing with it, because this is, like you say, it's looking at the natural receptors and things like that, where a lot of people, I think, maybe don't trust it just because of the needle. You know what I mean? Like, that's a scary look.
Just because of the stigma of a needle. It's like,
right.
Oh, what is that? What is that? I'm like,
right. I'll be honest. I see, someone prepping a needle and hitting it like that. It invokes like ideas of, heroin. And I hate to say that, but it's just one of those things that you see the syringe, but that's not what this is at all. This is a completely, different thing altogether. And it's done properly.
Right.
But yeah, that's, and like I say, I find it fascinating, but I am curious. We were talking about how, you got into the bodybuilding, you got into all these other things, but then when did coaching become an aspect of it? When did you start, seeing that would be an avenue you wanted to go down?
Yeah. So, coaching was always something I was doing because people would always ask me for advice. And I've always been very articulate. I'm a Virgo for all you astrology guys out there, so I got a very analytical brain. So that being said, let's get this ready here. Okay, cool.
I know it's tough to answer questions while you're also thinking about what you're doing over here, but yeah.
No, okay, I'm all good now. So, so the coaching started, it started informally, right, just at the gym. And then people would always be like, man, you explain things really well. I was like, okay, so, there's probably something here for me. I'm hearing this all the time. So when I was, when I was about 20 years old, I started, taking clients on social media. Nothing too crazy, just very informally, like through like Venmo or stuff like that, and just sending people diets on the note section of phone, building them workouts on like a PDF and stuff. and because I would be posting all my bodybuilding stuff online, and then as I was competing, I noticed the attention start to grow more and more because I'm doing shows and stuff. More people would inquire about like, hey, I need help with losing weight or getting ready for a show. And so I started getting more and more clients, and then it kind of just took off from there. And I'm like, man, maybe I should make this a thing, and I did. So yeah, I'd say probably, I was training for about 5 years, and then at that point, I guess my experience got to the point where it manifested in the coaching. Yeah.
No, I think you've gone the right route, and I think our patient is ready. Patient 0 is here, folks. Yeah, we're gonna put a little injection into his back here, and if a wing sprouts out of it, then so be it. But hey, we'll see. I haven't seen that as a side effect, but I'm hoping this will be like an X-Men thing.
Yeah, so it's right under the skin. So what we do is we pinch the skin. So it's right here, about right. I recall, right?
A little higher.
Right about there.
A little lower.
Right about
Down
there.
a little bit.
Right about there.
Down a little bit.
There.
Right. In the middle.
Right there.
Yeah, a little middle.
Down.
Kind of where you see the scar is.
Right here.
Yeah, right in there.
Yeah, a little bit like in the middle though.
Like there.
Yeah, right in there.
Oh,
a
so
little
right
higher. A little higher.
Right there.
Yeah, right in there. Yeah.
Okay, and you don't need
Kind
to
of have to like dig for it, but you don't have to be right
Yeah,
on, right?
yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna actually.
So he's marking it right now.
Marking it with this. That's like the most painful part is.
No, that's good though. But then you don't feel that you
my
don't.
nail in there to
Right.
make sure I know.
Yeah, you don't feel the prick as much after that though.
Yes. Okay. Cool. And then touched it, so now I'm gonna clean it with the alcohol. And what
What's
we're
the
doing is we're
importance
actually
of
just going
alcohol?
under the spin. We're going under the skin, so we're not going like directly.
What's the importance of the alcohol strip?
Oh, you just want to clean it so there's no dirt.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't want to have any bacteria in the body. So you want to make sure you clean the top of the vial. Prior to every use, use a fresh needle. Don't ever use a reused needle. And you want to clean the surface of the skin that you're injecting to, so there's no dirt that's going inside your bloodstream.
What we do for ratings?
Everything clean's going in. That's the most important.
Yeah. And what you don't necessarily like go like into his spine. It's just a small insulin needle. And what we're doing is we're just pinching the skin here. So you can see, get some lift. That's all just skin, and we're just going in the middle of the skin. You guys can see here.
Yep.
He's going in. We have insertion. We have pinching in progress.
There we go.
And he has found it. He is going in, and it is the point of no return, folks. It's going in now. And he is now officially healed. Healed instantaneously.
How was that?
Do you feel right now? Well, then it didn't work. No.
Little prick.
Yeah.
How do you feel it? The worst part is
Give people a good experience. I was working at Cheesecake Factory in Seasons 52. Man, that was a good time. So much fun. But yeah, totally. Just you run it. You're serving all day long. You're handling 20, 30, 40, 50 tables, depending on how busy the day was a day. And each table has anywhere from like 2 to 6 people. So there's all these different personalities that you're interacting with in regards to asking about what their food, they're answering questions, what they're asking about the menu. Not everyone will ask questions. Some people will just order and be straight up. But just there's a different energy that you're interacting with, even if I'm just like dropping off some silverware, some different plates, or some certain condiments, or a side of something, and just having that eye contact, you can just see the different personalities. There's so many different personalities out there. And then you start learning like little subtleties, little nuances of like, I should probably use this kind of tonality with this kind of person. I should probably be a little bit, more soft-spoken with this person is a little bit more laid back. So, it's an aspect of, it's called mirroring. So you're kind of mirroring the state that they're in. This person's really happy. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say it makes a lot of sense that really all you're learning to do is read people. Really, you're learning to read your table. I'm one of those people where I always feel like I haven't greeted the table enough. I haven't asked enough questions, and I want to go back. And it's so funny because a lot of the times when I get complimented on the service was great, they're the times I didn't go greet the table that often, that I kind of forgot about them. But it's one of those things that, like you say, you learn to read people that, the approach on this table is not going to work on the same approach with this table. These guys that have come in 20 times before, I'm going to talk to them a little bit different than I am going to talk to someone who's brand spanking new that I don't know. I always say you lead with professionalism, and then by the end of it, you should be able to joke with your tables. You should be able to have fun with them. And I do wonder, with coaching, I feel that you almost have to be a little bit more professional, right? Like you can't as much joke around with people until they start to see the results, until they have actually seen that your message is clear. Okay, now we can have some fun. But until that point, I think they're just like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. If he's joking around, then it can't be that serious.
Totally. That's actually really cool that, you pointed that out. Yeah, in the beginning, it's very professional, very formal. And I always, can feel out on the sales calls, you know what I mean? The intro calls, of course, I'm super professional. When we get started in the program, my main concern is, getting them results. But once we go back and forth a few times, there definitely is an aspect of like kindness and friendship almost that comes from that. I mean, we're talking about intimate things there, I'm like, how's your day going? What's going on? This happened at home, this happened with the wife, or this happened in business. I'm experiencing this. Because that's all how that impacted, the journey that I'm on with you, being me, the coach. It gets pretty intimate. So from that, the aspect of like friendship and, some camaraderie, I would say, because we're all, seekers in the sense of seeking the highest version of ourselves, and we're optimizing our, mind, bodies, and spirits. And yeah, I think it creates phenomenal bonds. Yeah. I think there's a lot of aspects that run parallel there than to the restaurant analogy.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. It's one of those things where you start seeing that you do some of these things in your real life that you never thought you would do, and it's not just a matter of taking an order or anything like that, but it is a lot of different things that, we've always talked about. Every job you do, you take something out of that. You get a little bit of that, and you find a way to use it for the next thing. And no, that makes a lot of sense. And like I say, when you're in a restaurant, people are focused on you, and for me, it's quick, because if I give you a recommendation and you taste it and it's good, okay, well, I can trust this guy now. And now I can also listen to his dessert recommendation. But like I say, with coaching, it's tough because, like you say, sometimes people are hitting their head up against the wall. They can't go any farther. They don't know what they're doing wrong. And you come in and you tell them to do this thing. And when they see the results, I think that's really the click, that this guy, it's not just a matter of it works for him. What he's saying can also work for me. But I also love the fact, like we said, we talk about this whole mind, body, soul thing. You throw out meditation as a very important part of your day-to-day activities, as part of your training. What's one of your favorite things about meditation? What do you get out of that you find you weren't getting from any of the other aspects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the focus that I get from meditation, right? Because meditation is not to not think about anything and just sit there and meditate. It's when you have thoughts come in, refocusing on your breath or your body or your internal space or a mantra of some sort. There's so many ways you can do it, but you're basically bringing your focus back into some aspect of your internal world, whether that be just, I'm feeling my body right now. You can feel your left foot right now. Like, anyone listening, can you feel your left foot? And you're like, oh yeah, my left foot's right there. It was always there. Yeah. But until you actually go and put your focus on it, where focus goes, your energy flows, right? That you don't really notice your left foot there. So I think meditation is the aspect of, one, being able to disconnect from the outside world, because how often do we ever do that? We're always as soon as we wake up, we're engaging, looking at the phone, looking at this, that, and the other thing, and really bringing your attention back to your internal space, your internal world, your thoughts, your emotions you're experiencing, and just being with that. So that's super useful, but also just because you want to think about your phone, what's happening later at work, or this other deadline, or what happened earlier, this person cut me off in traffic, or I'm upset about this event that happened, or whatever, right? And be like, no, that I'm just going to leave that there. I'm going to bring my focus back to my breath, my body, a mantra perhaps, or just anything that has to do with your internal world, disconnecting from the five senses. I think it's super useful. Practically in life, it allows you to have more distance between things that happen to you and how you react to it. Because something will happen, some event, which triggers an emotion that makes you think something about the event. And because in meditation, you're sitting with your thoughts so much, you're able to essentially hold space for that thought and be like, okay, that's what I'm thinking right now, but now how do I want to respond? So you're training in that realm, in that little micro aspect of where the reaction or response comes from. You're like training that space in between what happens to you and then how you react to it.
And I think for 27 years old, you're very articulate, very well spoken. Is that a hurdle for you though? Like dealing with, because I know you deal with a lot of CEOs, and high net worth guys.
Yeah. No, honestly, no. I just don't talk
shocked.
about my age.
Yeah.
I just don't talk. We just don't talk about it.
Yeah. I was
Right,
shocked
yeah,
when you
yeah.
said you were 27. I'm like, no way.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it is a perception that this guy's 27. He can't tell me what to do, and he just did.
He hasn't.
Yeah, I think
no.
because like I just kind of come across, knowledgeable about what I'm talking about because I am. I'm very well read, very well studied, very well practiced at what I do. So people are like, oh, okay, they just kind of look at me like a resource. You know what I mean? And then like I don't think the age thing ever comes up, and it's not something I really advertise.
I don't think I've ever. Yeah, I've known you for 5-6 years.
I look old, got a big beard. Yeah.
It's funny. I looked up. It said that you were born in Sri Lanka. Is that true?
No. I was born in Sacramento.
I saw that somewhere. And I'm like, I don't know about this. I think I would have heard about that.
Where'd you read that?
I thought I saw it on your I think it might not have even been you. It might have been someone else.
A different Akaash.
No, I'm dead serious because it was like a LinkedIn thing, and I'm like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm gonna throw it out there. So you're not from Sri Lanka? Okay, good.
No.
I was
Descendants from India. My parents were born in India. I'm first generation here.
Okay. Have you ever been out to India?
Yeah, I've been out a couple of times.
Would you-
It's pretty wild. Thorough.
I was gonna say I used to teach a lot of students that were Indian, and they would go over every summer and come back just dark as can be because it's 110 degrees out there right in the middle, but also just they always seemed to have family that were out there, and it was always this really nice sort of tight-knit thing where they got to spend so much time with their grandparents that were still over there and things like that. I really loved it. Did you find any interesting things out there in Indian culture that you really liked?
Oh man, just it opened my whole reality out because when I was born here, so I thought India at first was like America with more brown people everywhere. That's what I thought it was. You know what I mean? When I first went back when I was 2, didn't remember that much because I was 2, and then I went back when I was 8, and that was the big eye-opening experience. It's a third world country, so much higher population. There's people everywhere. There's not as much development. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's totally developed areas, nice cities and things like that in India, but woven throughout that are like the slums, or so much different agriculture. Just the whole energy of it. It's a different part of the world. It's being in a different part of the globe. It just feels different. Anyone that's well traveled knows what I'm talking about. So to have that introduced in my life, I think that was at such a young age 8. I think it was very expanding.
Very much so. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think that there's so many different cultures out there. I mean, I was trying to, I remember asking someone, oh, you speak Indian? And they're like, what are you talking about? There's like 20 different languages that are like predominant in this area. We're speaking Hindi. I'm like, okay, I didn't know that, the same sort of thing as how we used to say Chinese when there was Cantonese and Mandarin. But that's what I'm saying. I always find it fascinating because there are so many different kinds of people out in India. You think I think Americans, we tend to think everyone's, a one, they're all like this kind of thing. But I find it interesting because one of the things that we've talked about is your kind of, hatred of vegetables and how much you want to see them all murdered. But out in India, I do know that vegetarianism is a very big thing out there.
There's a lot of vegetarians in India, yeah.
And like you can't even kill cows out there, right? For the most part, because
yeah, it's a holy animal.
And so that's what I'm wondering for someone like yourself who is a true carnivore. What is it like going out there having to eat a bunch of naan and freaking veggies?
It's cool, I mean, it is what it is. A different culture, you know what I mean. I respect it. If you look at a lot of the people, they're all like kind of skinnier.
I've noticed that.
Don't get me wrong. There's obviously the outliers, of course, but generally speaking, most people are a lot leaner, a lot skinnier, and whatnot. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being vegetarian if that's working out for you.
Wonder if there's like an underground like group that eats meat.
Yeah, all the
I'm sure there is.
Come
Right?
out, yeah.
They
keep them hidden from the general public.
Cows
But yeah,
I know, right?
It's like Fight Club. You go underneath, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of 300-pound Indian dudes
just eating cheeseburgers.
tearing apart
India's
ribs.
great, man. There's a lot of beautiful aspects to it. The eighth wonder of the world, Taj Mahal, that's there. The Golden Temple's there. It's one of the homes of spirituality. A lot of Hinduism is one of the oldest religions. Some great temples out there. And there's so much life to be experienced. There's so many good things about India. I got nothing bad to say about it. It's where my country was from. But, one thing I think as a young child, to see a third world country, I'm like, man, we're really blessed being out in America, man. You see some real poverty out there. You know what I mean?
Their healthcare systems all screwed up out there.
I know, right? So, I mean, like, you see some real poverty, so it'll give you some perspective. I'm like, some people don't have, like, water, low food, messed up housing, you know what I mean? Like, even here, being on Section 8, you get food stamps, you get roof over your head. You know, I'm like that's a blessing over there for those people. And you know, there's also a lot of wealth out there, but this is a lot of poverty too.
There's just so many damn people. I mean, it's one of those things. You have nearly 2 billion people living in one country. There's just going to always be, unfortunately, a divide. That there's always going to be more people wanting these resources, and there aren't necessarily enough to go around. But you know, it's one of those things. I love going into older countries and seeing the history. You know, here in America, the oldest building you're going to find is like what 300 years old or so. Cool, but you know, I went over to Greece and I saw the Parthenon, which is 7,000 years old. You know, and it's like this is fascinating to me because I always think of people back then as being so different from us, but they weren't. There was a lot of the same things, you know, figuring things out. But I also think about a lot of there was a lot of trial and error. You know what I mean? People were eating things not realizing like, oh, you know, hey, remember when we had that raw chicken last night? Yeah, I'm not feeling so great kind of thing. I wonder if there's something to that. You know, I always think about that. The poor caveman that had to die for us eating the poison apple before realizing, hey, we don't eat off of that tree anymore. You know, I find that kind of stuff fascinating to go back in time. But, you know, like I say, I think it's wonderful getting in touch with your roots and getting in touch with different cultures. And I find India very fascinating, just the amount of people there and just the different cultures, the different religions and dialects and all that stuff. I think it's fascinating. And, you know, we think about America, it's the same way. You talk to someone in the South versus talking to someone in New York, they might not be able to understand each other because it's just like, what did you say? I don't understand, y'all, you know, like all this stuff. But that's really cool that you got that as a young child. When's the last time you went out there?
It's been a while. Last time I went back, I was 14, so it's been over a decade. It's been over a decade.
Plan on going back anytime soon?
I don't, just, you know what I mean? Maybe like in a couple of years. I'm just so busy all the time. You know, it's an excuse, but I mean, I feel like if I go back, I don't want to just go for like a week. You know what I mean?
It's a long-ass flight.
It's a long flight. It's like a day to get there.
It's insane.
And then your roots are obviously in Sacramento. Do you have any goals of moving anywhere else, or is this your home? Or
you know, Sacramento will always be home. I just love it out here just because it's hometown. But as far as moving, yeah, you know, wherever the wind takes me. You know, right now I'm living out in Roseville. It's a little bit like north of Sacramento, a little bit more upscale-y and stuff. But I definitely like nice things. I have aspirations to own properties in other cool places that I like and like Airbnb them, and then eventually like bounce around and have kind of a nomadic lifestyle in a sense, you know, with the online business and everything. But essentially, yeah, Sacramento would always be home. I have a lot of family here. It'd be cool to live in Dubai. I'll say that. It'd be cool. Yeah, I want to go out there and check it out.
We actually have a guy coming on the show, I think in 2 weeks. He's an entrepreneur. He's done over 100 Airbnbs. He's done, I think, like 200 Turos.
That's savage.
Just 200 cars around. He pays for them in cash, and it's really, really interesting. I'm excited to have him on. But what he did with the Airbnb, which is kind of cool, is he put someone in the house rent-free to kind of watch over the house, and then he rents out all the rooms.
Interesting.
And he maximized his profits that way. Because the problem with Airbnb, there's an influx. God, this stupid thing. I've hit this mic.
Yeah.
It's been a battle all day, folks. But it's been the issue with it. Airbnb came in, everyone did it right, but the part that they really screwed up on was hospitality. That was the big issue because the house would be all messed up. There'd be shit everywhere. And what this guy did was he planted someone in there, gave them rent free, and they just got to clean the house. They got to do the yard work, and they got to watch over the house. And then he gets a 4-bedroom, rents out to 3, maximizes profits. And I'm really interested to see that because you would think, you know, per room, I'm like, I'd rather just do the whole house. But the problem is, there's no one to watch over.
Yeah, then you have to pay a cleaning lady or someone to come in and take care of it. You have to make sure, that everything's. It's better to have someone on the ground.
But yeah, we're excited about that. The guy's got 100
That's cool. Oh, yeah. I can't wait to watch that episode.
So it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, we appreciate you coming in, man. It was such a wealth of knowledge from a 27-year-old, which is just blowing my mind right now.
I don't buy it.
I don't think so either. I was thinking of 37. I think he's just going to mess with us.
Well, it's 34.
I got my ID.
But how do we? How do people, if they want to get into coaching with you, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram at Akaash Aesthetics to shoot me a DM or click the link in bio. It's AKAASH Aesthetics.
Okay.
Spelled like AKA Ash. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean there's an ash at the end. That's true. Yes, AKA Ash.
So
That's
if
true.
you guys want to get
it's
ripped in your physical body, in your spiritual body,
Yeah.
Mentally ripped.
Want to optimize your hormones, look jacked,
if you want
Spiritually
healing,
shredded.
if you want
align with your
healing,
purpose.
yeah, the whole bit. So we're excited to see how these peptides are going to do, and we will keep everyone informed on the journey of this. How many weeks is it supposed to be?
4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
keep you guys. I'll let you know.
You should be seeing some great results in about 2 weeks.
And if you see the podcast with me and not Brandon, we'll know what happened, folks. We'll know what happened.
All right, guys. Well, another
Thanks so much for having
episode
me.
in the book. Akaash, the man. We appreciate him.
We did it.
Thank you.
We did it. Thanks for
All
coming
right.
on, buddy.
Cool. See you
Thanks.
guys.
Thanks for watching Two Bees in a Pod. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and thank you for all the love and support.